everyone. Welcome to Performacast Season 2, Episode 5. And today we've got a very special guest all the way from Canada, Trevor. And we're going to be speaking to him about biohacking your way to health and losing fat, especially for men over 40 years old. And before we start, I just want you to remind you to subscribe to my YouTube channel and to follow my Instagram. There are going to be quite amazing giveaways down the line. And there's going to be more amazing guest speakers and all the latest in health coming right here. So what you get is all your latest in health and wellness and longevity. And I made a little introduction to Trevor. He's biohacking with fat loss, specifically for men over 40. And welcome, Trevor. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks so much, Josie, for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's going to be a fun conversation.
Yeah, definitely. So, Trevor, tell me, it's an interesting word these days. It's a buzzword. Biohacking everything, there's a hack for here, there's a hack for this. Tell me a little bit more about biohacking.
Yeah, absolutely. I know the big thing around that is everyone thinks, oh, biohacking is a fad. It's like it's here, it's not there. Like it's not something that you want to do for a long time. But to be honest, the first thing that we want to focus on is really biohacking our bodies when it comes to losing body fat. When it comes to losing body fat, it's really about hormone regulation. And we want to improve the health of our bodies. We want to drive down specific hormones and we want to biohack our hormones. That's really the very first thing we want to focus in on is regulating hormones. And that's what we really focus in on is actually biohacking the hormones. That's the first thing. All right. So when people are trying to lose body fat or improve their health, it really is about nutrition. It's about getting the right types of foods in your body. That's number one. That's the key. All right. If you don't get the right types of foods in your body, you're going to have hormone dysfunction or high levels of insulin, and that's going to cause issues. And that's why I'm not totally sold on calories in, calories out to lose body fat, because I've done the research. I've looked at things with the eye of, hey, let's regulate our hormones first. And hormones are so powerful. They're really the key master driver when it comes to improving health and losing body fat.
There are obviously different ways of biohacking. There are ways of injecting stuff into your body to get the necessary hormones. You seem to be more natural biohacking with nutrition, because that could, become like also a bit of a, for longevity and holistic health, could be a little bit of a, what's the word?
Rabbit hole.
Maybe a negative thing, yeah. Like it's too, it's a quick
Yeah.
fix thing.
Right. Now, I totally understand that. Absolutely. Because there's a lot of people that say, hey, like you have to be, eating very specific foods or like organic foods or, those types of things. But honestly, like we want to really focus in on like, so for myself, biohacking is really about the right types of foods entering into the body at the right time. Right. So it's not about like, very crazy nutritional protocols. It's really about the whole foods that you can get in your body, combining these types of foods together and eating these foods every 4 hours. So let me do a bit of a deep dive into that. I'll just quickly explain more about that and how that works. So the process of biohacking your body fat is actually about combining the right types of fats and proteins together in one meal and timing these meals every 4 hours. Now, the reason we want to do this is because when we combine the right fats and proteins together, we can actually drive down insulin, right? So insulin is a hormone that we need in our body. We need insulin. However, so many people are running with too much insulin in their bloodstream. They develop a condition called hyperinsulinemia, right? And so if you're dealing with hyperinsulinemia, that's too high levels of insulin in your bloodstream. That's a high level of circulating insulin in your bloodstream. And that can cause mitochondrial dysfunction, basically killing the cell, damaging the cell. And then we have a whole bunch of diseases that follow, like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, heart attack, cancer, stroke. Obviously, all of those types of conditions or diseases that we don't want in the body. So the first thing we want to do is we want to have the right types of foods come into our body to lower insulin. That's the first thing. So biohacking your hormones, I'm really referring to reducing insulin. That's the big thing. And then from there, what we want to do is we want to eat every 4 hours, because we can also biohack our appetite regulating hormones. We have two of them. Well, we have a lot of different types of hormones that regulate, but the two main ones are ghrelin and leptin. right? So by eating every 4 hours, we actually reduce ghrelin in the stomach. We can actually reduce ghrelin, which is our hunger hormone. Ghrelin gets released from the stomach and we don't fuel our bodies properly. It goes to our brains and basically tells our brains, hey, give me food, right? I'm hungry. So that's where cravings come in. That's where overeating comes in or binging. And so if you're actually be able to eat the right types of fats and proteins every 4 hours, we reduce ghrelin secretion from in your stomach. And that's a huge thing. That's a very important thing. So that's why we advocate eating every 4 hours. And then finally, on that note, by driving down ghrelin, we can increase another hormone from our fat stores called leptin. And leptin is very powerful. It essentially goes to our brain and says, hey, we're good. We don't need any food. It essentially tells our brain that we're satiated, right? And by eating the right types of fats and proteins, we can actually really manipulate or regulate these types of hormones. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, it is, like it makes sense for sure. But like, tell me this, like, say, you've got to be very disciplined to, have the right fats every 4 hours. It takes a lot of discipline, right? So it's only for those type of people that like have a specific goal. Yes, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to lose the fat. I'm going to do this every 4 hours, get the right proteins, get the right fats. Um, and what about like the rest of the people that, like when they want to lose fat, but they don't have that discipline to eat every 4 hours or to wait every 4 hours, and they eat when the body feels like it or when they're hungry, as you say. And like I don't care about the credit, I don't care, that I
Right.
want to eat, I'm hungry. What advice do you have for those people?
Well, I think the first thing really is to not overcomplicate things. I think to really just keep it simple, right? Well, our philosophy and our system, when we work with our clients, is KISS, keep it simple, Simon, right? Because, obviously we're all busy, we're lots of jobs, their job, relationship, careers, and so the big thing around this is always keeping your meals simple. And, for example, when you're eating, make sure to reduce carbs. Like we don't want to like, our our society is so driven by carbs. We want to reduce the amount of carbohydrates that you're eating. So just be very simple around or conscientious around carbs, reducing the amount of carbs that you eat. Of course, we want to cut out all like processed, refined carbohydrates. We want to cut all those out. And then we really just want to focus on like really simple foods, really simple whole processed foods. That's the big thing, especially when we're busy. For example, like just keeping it like at very simple proteins like ground beef and chicken and steak and those types of things. And having, say, like creating a meal that's like very simple, like ground beef, adding in some romaine lettuce or spinach or cucumbers, adding in a little bit of fats, having some, high quality fats come into your body like avocados and extra virgin olive oil and avocados, those types of things, and adding like just some simple fats and utilizing just the simplicity of it all, right? And then just figuring out when you're hungry. So if your body says, hey, I'm hungry after 3 hours, then abide by that and just be like, hey, okay, I'm going to have another high quality food meal at that time, right? Because if you're trying to force the body to do something or you're trying to go against what your body's telling you, it's always going to rebound. It's always going to sort of react poorly, right? Much like a teenager, when you say, hey, like you have to be home at 10 p.m. at nighttime, the teenager is going to rebel and say no. Same thing with the body. So if you're trying to lose body fat and improve your health, listen to your body cues, listen to your, what's going on inside your body. And if your body says, hey, I'm hungry after 3 or 4 hours or 5 hours, whatever it is, just naturally go with that. And as you go through this process, you will find that you will lose weight easily because you're not going on some restrictive diet that's like forcing the body to do something that it's not wanting to do.
Yes, I think the key, as you say, is to like get rid of all the chemical foods, the processed foods, and put more natural like proteins, fats in the system. And naturally, you'll be fuller for longer. You'll have, and it will become more of a natural thing as opposed to looking at the clock every 4 hours, whatever the case is. And even if it's, snacking on a piece of fruit, say in an hour, or like in a high quality energy bar that's made from only coconut oil and dates, for example. I think that does that have an effect on, say, not losing the weight, as you say?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing around that is, listening to your body, like you said, and keeping it very simple, getting all the refined processed foods out. I think going back to the basics, I think, we've all been sort of misled saying, oh, we need to be, for example, eating like protein bars and supplements and all that kind of stuff. Like just taking it to the basics. I think that's the number one thing. Cutting it back to the basics, eating really whole, unprocessed foods, and then just looking at sort of the quality of the food as we go through this process, like we don't want to have a lot of processed foods. Like, for example, energy bars, right? There could be quite a lot of stuff in there that we don't want in our bodies. So just keeping it very simple. Fruit is fine, but we do want to have like low glycemic fruit, for example. Like we don't want to have like mangoes and those types of like high sugary watermelons and cantaloupes. We want to have more like berries, cherries. We want to eat more like seasonal fruit that's not always in season. So having like those types of low glycemic fruits to keep the blood sugar levels down, and to reduce insulin secretion is key, right? So we don't want to be eating fruit all the time. I think fruit's something that we can incorporate into that. And those again, just keeping everything really basic. That's the whole thing. I think going back to keeping it simple, Simon. That's the number
Yeah, it
one thing.
makes sense. And once, like, what is the ideal weight, would you say, for the average person? I'm not talking like, if they have a specific goal, like what would you say the ideal body weight percentage should be?
For the average person, what's the average body weight that they should be? Is that what you're
Yeah,
asking?
like what would you say is a healthy? I know, anything over, say, 25% is considered obese, but obviously it's different body types. But what would you say is like, should be aiming for?
Well, I think the biggest trap that we've fallen into in society is always going by the weight on a scale, right? The weight on the
Yeah,
scale is can be really it can be a roller coaster up and down with the
of course.
mindset, right? So I think what we want to do is we want to go back and say, okay, listen, we want to be a certain body fat percentage or a certain weight, that's fine. But what we want to look at is body composition. That's the biggest thing, right? We want to, strip off your shirt or, whatever it is, stand in front of the mirror and look where your fat is, right? So for us men over 40 and in going into their 50s and middle ages, you want to have less subcutaneous body fat around your belly, right? We want to have less of that because, of course, subcutaneous and visceral fat causes diseases, right? We want to obviously be living longer, healthier lives, and that means we want to cut down your subcutaneous and visceral fat around your belly. Same thing for women, but of course, women carry a lot more around their hips and their butt. So we want to make sure that we want to reduce that amount of body fat around those areas as well. So that's the thing. I wouldn't trust the scale as much, but what I would do is if I was working with somebody, I would be wanting to say, okay, how much body fat percentage are you carrying? Let's reduce that amount around your belly fat so we can reduce diseases in your body because it's all about longevity, right? When if you want to build muscle, that's fine, which is great for longevity. But I want to improve the health of your body, your cellular health, right? That's more important than being like cutting it down or losing weight, right? It's more important to improve the health of your body rather than trying to, get a specific weight on the scale. Yeah, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. No, the scale plays havoc with a lot of people. Like, they could be up in the morning and down in the well, down in the morning, say, and up in the evening. And then it completely fluctuates and they get so confused and they starve themselves. And it's never, I don't think it's maybe once in a while just to check where you're holding, check in, I think might be a good idea. But, and track when you're doing it. But yeah, it definitely makes sense with that. So my next question is like, okay, we got the food sorted out. We're eating healthy, we're eating clean. We losing, from food naturally, we're going to lose a little bit of body fat. What's the next step to do to, just lose a bit more?
Well, I think that there's a lot of different things you can unpack there, but the one thing that I would really implore people to start looking at is two things: one, fasting, and two, exercise. In terms of just resistance training, fasting has a wonderful effect on the body, improving insulin secretion and increasing autophagy, which is the recycling of cells that don't work anymore. So as we go through this process, we want to increase a few things. We want to increase your fasting protocol. So fasting is a natural thing that as humans, have been doing for thousands and thousands of years. It's only sort of come into mainstream culture in the last probably 10, 15 years. But you want to start fasting, ideally 16 hours every day. That would be ideal for most people. For anybody that's dealing with chronic diseases or conditions, doing weekly 24-hour fasts would be phenomenal for most individuals that are dealing with type 2 diabetes or any type of illnesses. So doing a longer fast throughout the week, but doing like, say, maintaining 16-hour fasts and then eating, I usually recommend eating 3 meals a day in an 8-hour window of eating. So for example, it could be like 10, 2, and 6. So eating at 10 a.m., then 2 p.m., then 6 p.m., and then fasting for 16 hours after that, which would be ideal for most individuals. And that will allow them to drive down insulin, increase their fat burning hormone capabilities, which is called glucagon. And that's going to allow the body to really start to ramp up the way that the fat loss is happening inside their body.
And is that the same as intermittent fasting, or is it
Yeah,
different? It's the same
yeah,
thing.
no, same thing. Intermittent fasting or time restricted eating is what other people call it. But yeah, intermittent fasting is something that I think most people should jump on right away, especially if you're dealing with obesity or any type of diseases in the body.
And then that's the next step's training. What would you suggest for someone who wants to lose weight over 40? What should they be doing? Should they focus on strength? Should they focus on cardio? What do you think? What do you suggest?
Yeah, again, coming back to the basics, I think the first thing that most individuals should be focusing on is strength training. I think cardio is phenomenal. Cardio is great. There's a place in the spotlight for cardio, but I think the first step would be to incorporate resistance training 2 to 3 times per week, so we can start to build some muscle. Lean body tissues always, requires more caloric input, and that increases metabolism, improves the health of the body, improves mitochondrial functioning. So that's always the first step. Again, coming back to the basics, we don't want to overcomplicate it. 3 times per week, just doing, say, like some upper body and lower body strength training would be great just to start with. And then again, as we progress, maybe hiring an individual to create more of an advanced exercise program and start to build more lean body tissue. You don't have to be a bodybuilder, of course, but you obviously, as we age, we want to have good strength. We want to have good conditioning in our heart lungs, and so developing that will be next. The thing on training is that, like in my world, we always want to get fat adapted, meaning we want the body to utilize ketones as we start to train, right? So we want to get our bodies fat adapted, and that allows the body to actually utilize ketones from our own body fat source while we're actually training, which is such an amazing thing. So the first thing we want to work on is nutrition to get our bodies fat adapted, and the second thing we want to work on is obviously the fasting, and the third is to get your body training as a fat adapted machine. That's the biggest thing. Those are the 3 steps that I would say would be ideal.
And would you say sleep fits into that process?
Oh yeah, sleep and recovery is a huge thing. Again, it doesn't get talked about a lot in the health and weight loss circles, but sleep is obviously something that's going to improve your hormones. It's going to balance out hormones. It's going to improve growth hormone. Going to drive down cortisol. So having the appropriate amount of recovery and sleep is crucial for sure. And it's more about the quality of sleep than the quantity. Right? So you want to have more high quality sleep, even when it's like, say, 5 hours of high quality sleep is better than 8 hours of not great sleep at all, or tossing and turning. So you do want to work on your sleep patterns, when you go to bed, when you get up, and those types of things. And the sleep routine needs to be there, and the recovery needs to be there as well. So, a lot of people, when they're trying to lose weight and improve their health, they're overzealous. They're like, I'm going to work out 6 days a week or 7 days a week, and I'm going to go 2 hours a day at the gym. Right. We want to just, hey, okay, let's dial it back a little bit and let's work on the recovery and sleep process first, because that's going to be ultimately where your body grows and improves during your sleep and recovery phases as well. So yeah, it's a big thing. And I mean, I would recommend, if somebody's like wanting to really improve their health and really dial stuff in, is to work with the health professional, either myself, yourself, or somebody else, because there's a lot of facets to this, right? It's not just like nutrition. It's not just like sleep. It's not just like training. It's like you want to develop the lifestyle that you can create for yourself that's going to last a long, long time, right? For myself personally, I've been training seriously since 1998, and I've been doing this for 26 years. I've been helping individuals with their health and weight and wellness and fitness, everything like that, since 1998. And I know it's not easy to have a routine that you can continually follow. So that's why it's so important to get coaching, so that you can get accountability. You can work with somebody on a daily basis to keep yourself on track. right? So anyway, I've been going on a tangent, but that's sort of
No,
kind of like
it's all good. The tangents are
getting
good. Like,
around
what
it.
type of training for you personally? What type of training do you do?
Oh man, right now I'm doing a 3.5 week cycle of German volume training. I don't know if you've heard about that, but essentially 10 sets of 10, doing like 20 sets per body part. It's quite intense. I cycle that back with more hypertrophy training, more strength training. So I'll do about 3 to 4 week cycle of German volume training and a 3 to 4 week cycle of just hypertrophy training. Try to build muscle. In between those sessions, I do a lot of power walking. And so I just actually came back from a 8 kilometer power walk this
Oh,
morning,
wow.
Sunday morning. So yeah, it's phenomenal. And if you can figure out what works really well for you, and it's you can stick with it long term. And I love the way I train. I love the way I feel when I train. But really takes getting to know your body and how it responds to training so that you can adjust, right? Because if you don't respond well, it's going to be hard for you to continue forward on that training path, right? You're going to be like, oh, I don't feel good, or you know what I'm saying? So you want to find something that works for you. So if it's yoga or swimming or whatever it is that, that's your modality, that's what you want to stick with.
Yes, the sustainability is key. I mean, you've been doing it since 1998. I mean, that's quite a long time, man. So I mean, that's would be considered like sustainable, and that's great. I mean, and you got to find something that you don't get hurt in, you don't get injured in, because otherwise it's becomes unsustainable. Have you had any injuries along the way?
Yeah, that's interesting you asked that question. There's been a lot of times where I've hurt myself. Absolutely. I mean, for 26 years, I mean, you're not going to go off injury free. But the big thing around this is that you want to make sure you're like, I balance out my body with appropriate amounts of strength training and cardio. I make sure that my body's always in balance, right? So, for example, like I'm not always bench pressing in the gym, right? Like, want to make sure that you're training your back, your posterior chain muscles, you're getting a balance of your front delts and your back delts, right? You're balancing everything out so your body stays in perfect anatomical alignment. When people get hurt, it's when their bodies are out of alignment. That's a
Of
big
course.
thing. So it's always important to keep your body in balance. So that you can continue to train and continue to overload the body in appropriate ways and not get hurt, right? Like training is all about adaptation and overloading the body, but not overdoing it so you injure yourself, right? So there is a very sweet spot. And I've had to learn that myself personally. I remember back in 2005, I hurt my back so bad doing Smith machine squats. And I was only 25 at the time. And so it was a big learning curve for me. I had a sort of like I think it was L4, L5. I had really huge issues with that. And I had to really learn how to properly squat properly. And so I would never hurt myself again. But there's been lots of learning curves around that. And, when you're getting into training seriously, you have to learn how your body responds to training, right? It's a skill. Right. It's not like you go into the gym and you can be like this top performing athlete. It takes a long time to learn how your body responds to training. And that's a very personal thing for many people. Like it's not a generic thing. It has to be, you have to learn how your body responds to training. And it can take a while, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely takes time. I mean, for me, I haven't been training quite as long as you. I've been training since 2002.
Nice,
Like
man.
seriously,
Nice. That's awesome.
4 years difference. But yeah, I've had to also learn what I enjoyed, what I didn't like. Personally, I wasn't one for the gym. I found weights for me personally, I found it like boring, and I just didn't enjoy it. And it's something that you're going to learn to enjoy if you're going to keep it sustainable. And like the way for every single person is different. So if they like weights, great. If they like body weights, great. If they like, they have to, but you got to pick a modality, as you said before, and stick with it. Dive deep into it. Do it properly. Take your time. Be patient with it because everything is about process. I mean, I had people telling me when I was like in the beginning, on my training career, they said, no, you'll never build muscle with the stability ball because that's what I train on. I said, okay, whatever. I don't care about that. Like I said, why? You got a big frame. You can, you're going to lose out on so many other gains. I said, I don't care. I'm enjoying this type of training. And over time, the muscles caught up with the strength, right? So for me, that was my go to. And like I was very lucky in that sense because I found out what I love to do. So how does one like find out, like, instead of going to the mainstream, do these squats, do bench press? How in your opinion, how does one find what they actually do and love?
That's a great question. I love your story, by the way. Because training is very personalized. It shouldn't be, yeah, go to the gym and do 3 sets of bench press for 12 reps. That's sort of like, yeah, mainstream things that we've been fed over the years. But you have to really find out what you love. And for yourself, I think if, for example, if you love yoga, right? For example, if you're listening or watching this and you love yoga, I mean, do start doing in like intensive around like what do yogis do? Like, what are the big things they do? How do they eat? How do they move? And like start doing, like you said, a deeper dive into that, right? If you're into swimming or, whatever it is, if you're into triathletes or Ironmans, like just start looking and learning. It's about learning, because the big thing around this is when it comes to training, it's learning what works best for your body. Now, some athletes do different things, right? Like some athletes train for 3 hours a day and some athletes only train for 30 minutes a day, right? Some athletes like myself, I'm a ketogenic athlete, completely keto, right? Other athletes are completely vegan, right? So whatever works well for your body, you have to do a deep dive into that. So get mentors, get coaches, do classes, get as much coaching as you can around what you love when you find that out. And then become a master of that, right? Like I think master your body, and intuitively think too as well. Being
Mm.
intuitive, I think, is so important for a lot of people. A lot of us have tuned that out, the intuitive piece of what you're wanting to accomplish with your body. If it feels intuitively correct, go with it. Just push yourself forward with that. If it intuitively doesn't feel right, stop it and try something else, right? Trust yourself. Trust yourself and trust your body, because your body's telling you what's right and what's wrong, right? Like, for example, just training on switching on nutrition, I only eat 80 to 90 grams of protein a day. Well, if you're going to talk to a strength athlete about that, they're like, 80 grams of protein a day, man, you're going to lose a whole bunch of muscle, right? Why don't you have 200, 220 grams of protein? Well, I feel great eating 80 grams of protein. I can still build lean body tissue, right? So don't think about going to the mainstream for your advice. Think intuitively and then hire a coach and really do a deep dive into what you love.
I love that because, at the end of the day, as you say, it's a very, very personal thing. Just your interests, what you like to do, it's all very personal. Same with training. There's no set way. You don't have to go inside a gym to train. You can make it in your garden. You can go outdoors. There's so many different options out there. And what talks to you, I think, is, as you said, it's important to listen to that voice, as well as nutrition. I mean, of course, you have to listen to your body more than your voice. It's what you eat. If you're bloated, if you're not bloated, if you're cramping, so it all plays a huge part. And I think as integrated type, both nutrition and training, I think that can be sustainable, where you just keep the weight off and look your best possible self.
Yep, 100%. I think everybody has that in them to actually do that. It does take a little bit of work, and again, it doesn't come easy for some people, and some people they really need to work at it. But 100%, we can make this a sustainable lifestyle for people. It's just teaching them a little bit about how to train, how to eat properly, and then just keeping it simple, and then coaching them and being like, hey, like we can figure this out. Just have to manipulate some things, and it's totally doable for so many people. I think. It is 100% doable if you want a sustainable lifestyle to help you stay fit and healthy.
Yeah, for sure. And then, like, what's next? Like, for example, they lose the weight, they lose they shed the weight. What's next?
I think for myself, my philosophy is like, what's your next goal? Like, again, we're human beings that I like for myself personally, I love to strive for new things, right? So for example, if, I, hit a certain goal weight, then I'm like, okay, well, let's switch from goal weight to performance. Like, I did a race walking half marathon for an hour and 40, a half marathon, sorry, for an hour and 45 minutes. I accomplished that. Then I go to the next goal, right? So you always want to stay hungry. Always, not on the physical sense hungry, but for the drive. You always want to stay hungry for the drive, for more, right? Because there's always more for the body to accomplish. Like I think we are so limited by by our mindset, right? Our bodies are capable of so much, and we don't give our bodies the right credit. And if we actually just kind of let go and trust, we can do so much with our bodies. So my advice to anybody that's listening is to stay hungry. Look at your body as something that you're going to improve upon every single day. And no matter what, if it's just like a half percentage of improvement every single day, you do that for 365 days, you'll have a brand new body at the end of the year, right? It's a phenomenal thing, and if we just stay hungry and keep pushing ourselves forward with new goals, the body is it's unlimited. It's unlimitless. Like we can just do whatever we want with our bodies.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's so hard for so many people, especially when it comes to mindsets. It's so much easier to sit on the couch, to binge, watch shows, eat garbage, and then repeat the process and wonder why they so unhealthy and obese. And you just start with, just start changing your mindset. I think, which is the key. Because
Yeah,
without, if you emotionally, there's no ways you're gonna get anywhere.
yeah,
So like just start, even
exactly.
if you're watching, I'd say like, what's your advice to get people off the couch?
Well, first stop with the mainstream stuff. Like, don't listen to people that say, "Oh, you want to lose weight? Take Ozempic or take a shortcut drug or do this." Like, there's no shortcuts, but it starts with just small little steps, right? You're on the couch, you're not feeling good. You know what? It starts with a small step, and every day you can just take that small step. So if you just want, go out for a 10-minute walk, 5-minute walk. Go out and just explore your neighborhood. Go out and just do a bit of walking in the morning. For myself personally, I love getting up early and just going out for a hard walk outside in my local park. It's so amazing when connecting with nature, connecting with the outside, breathing air, feeling amazing, having sort of mind clarity. And it's just about small steps. And nutrition, same thing. Like having those types of clean out sessions of your pantry, just getting all the junk out. You don't have to make huge changes all at once, just small stuff. If you're sitting on the couch and you're just feeling horrible, just do small stuff like go to your kitchen, back and forth like 10 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, just back and forth, just simple things. That's the start, right? And then you just build from there every day. Just build a little bit, a little bit, a little bit until you know it. Like 3 months have gone by and you're starting out doing like a 5K walk outside. It's just those small little steps. That's all. And what's that famous saying? I mean, I think it's like a mile. Can't remember the exact saying, but it's like, if you want to run a marathon, how's it? What's the start? It's just taking those small little steps, right? What's the fastest way to eat an elephant? In small, tiny chunks, right?
Makes sense. So where can we learn more from you? Share your details, where we can learn more.
Sure. I mean, the biggest thing, if you Google my name, you'll find all my contact information, Trevor Folgering. But if you want to check out specifically what we do, it's www.biohackthefat.com, biohackthefat.com. And so that's where you're going to find all of the systems, how I help people lose weight, client success stories, testimonials, before and afters, and you can check out that website. You can text me on that website. So if you scroll down all the way to the bottom, it should have a link that says connect with a coach, and you can connect with me right there. We can have a text message conversation, and if you want to get started, feel free to we can book a meeting together, just like this on Zoom, and we can chat about your health struggles, where you want to go, your goals, and your health weight or your health and weight goals, and then we can get started.
Well, Trevor, thank you so much for coming on the this Performacast. Really appreciate your time. It was a great chat, very interesting. And just reminding everyone, please hit the subscribe button. There's going to be some great giveaways down the line. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Yossi. I really appreciate it. Have a great day, guys. Thanks so much for watching.